Grand Azure Hotel lobby gleamed under crystal chandeliers, all polished marble and quiet elegance. Arielle Moore stood at the check-in desk with a single suitcase at her feet, trying to keep her hands from trembling as she signed the registration form. She glanced over her shoulder. Again, the woman behind the desk smiled professionally. "Will you be staying long, Miss Moore?" "I don't know yet." Arielle's voice came out smaller than she intended. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her hair was pulled back in a messy knot, and her sweater hung loose on a frame that had lost weight it couldn't afford to lose. She looked like someone who hadn't slept properly in weeks. Because she hadn't. 3 nights ago, Victor's voice through the apartment door, honey smooth and terrible. "I know you're in there, Ari. We need to talk. I'm not leaving until you open this door." She'd sat on her bathroom floor until sunrise, phone clutched and shaking hands, too afraid to call the police because Victor had friends there, too afraid to stay silent because what if he found a way in? By morning, he was gone. But the flowers he'd left by her door told her everything. White lilies. The same ones he'd brought to their first date. The same ones he'd sent after every fight, every time she'd tried to leave. "I'm watching. I'm waiting. I always come back." She needed cameras, locked doors, people around. She needed the Grand Azure. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Arielle stepped inside, exhaling for what felt like the first time in hours. She pressed the button for the 7th floor. Just before the doors closed, a hand stopped them. A man stepped in. Tall, impeccably dressed in a dark suit that probably cost more than her rent. His face was striking, sharp jawline, intense eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. There was something about the way he carried himself, controlled and still, like a blade in a sheath. He pressed the button for the penthouse. Their eyes met briefly. He nodded, a small acknowledgement. She managed a tired smile. The elevator climbed in silence, but she felt his presence like a weight in the air. Not threatening, just significant. Like standing near something powerful that could either protect you or destroy you, depending on its mood. When the doors opened on her floor, she stepped out. She didn't know it yet, but the man in the elevator had already decided something about her. And downstairs, in the lobby, Victor was walking through the front doors. Hit like and subscribe if you're already hooked, because you won't believe what happens when these two worlds collide. Comment below where you're watching from, and trust me, what's coming next will leave you breathless. Arielle sat on the edge of the hotel bed, phone pressed to her ear, staring at the door she'd already checked 3 times to make sure it was locked. "You did the right thing," Maya said on the other end. "Staying there was insane." "I know." Arielle's voice was hollow. "Tell me you're safe now." "I'm safe." The words felt foreign in her mouth. She hung up and lay back against the pillows, closing her eyes. Images flickered through her mind like a film reel she couldn't stop. Victor at 29, all charm and attention, showing up at the cafe where she worked with her favorite coffee order, memorized after one conversation. Victor, 3 months later, asking why she needed to see her friends so often when they had each other. Victor, 6 months in, checking her phone while she showered, explaining it was because he loved her so much it scared him. The suffocation had been gradual, like drowning in slow motion. By the time she understood what was happening, he'd woven himself into every corner of her life. Her freelance writing had isolated her, working from home, no office, no colleagues. He'd encouraged that, loved that she was always available for him. When she finally tried to leave 2 months ago, he'd shown up everywhere. Her grocery store, her coffee shop, outside her building at 2 a.m., just standing there watching her window. "You're overreacting," he'd said when she confronted him. "I'm just worried about you. You're not thinking clearly. You need me." But the look in his eyes told a different story. That look said, "You belong to me, and I will never let you go." All Arielle wanted now was simple. Impossibly simple. To feel safe. To reclaim the person she'd been before Victor. To wake up without fear sitting on her chest like a stone. To be free. 15 floors above, in a private conference room, Seo Joon-Kang listened to a man explain why a shipment had been delayed. He didn't interrupt. He rarely needed to. His silence had weight. 5 men sat around the table, each one powerful in their own right, each one careful about how they looked at him. Joon-Kang had built his family's organization into something untouchable, Legitimate businesses on the surface, enough shadow beneath to keep threats at bay. The hotel was his. The import company was his. Half the buildings on this block answered to him in one way or another. At 35, he had everything except the one thing wealth couldn't buy: connection. Real connection. People feared him or wanted things from him. They smiled when he entered rooms and tensed when he spoke. No one saw him as just a man. The meeting ended. The men filed out, bowing slightly as they passed. Joon-Kang stood at the window, looking down at the city lights. His reflection stared back, strong, controlled, alone. "You're doing it again." His sister Ji-yeon appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, wearing one of her designer suits and an expression that said she was about to meddle. "Doing what?" "Brooding. You brood very elegantly. I'll give you that. But you're 35, Joon-Kang. You own hotels, but you live in them like a guest. You control an empire, but you won't let anyone close enough to matter." "I'm fine. You're alone." She walked over, gentler now. "When was the last time you had dinner with someone who wasn't a business associate or me?" He didn't answer. She sighed. "You need to live a little, Appa, before you forget how." After she left, Joon-Kang returned to the window. Far below, a woman with a small suitcase crossed the lobby, looking over her shoulder like she was being followed. Something about her expression caught him. She looked the way he felt, like someone carrying a weight too heavy to bear alone. Arielle woke to sunlight streaming through curtains she didn't remember closing. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it came back. The hotel, the escape, the exhaustion that had finally pulled her under. She'd slept through the night. Actually slept. When was the last time that had happened? Her phone showed 2 missed calls from Victor and a text. "We need to talk. This is childish." Her stomach dropped, but before anxiety could fully take hold, there was a knock at her door. She froze. "Miss Moore?" "Hotel security." She opened the door to a man in a crisp uniform, professional and calm. "I wanted to inform you personally, the individual who caused the disturbance in the lobby last night has been permanently banned from the property. He won't be bothering you again." What?" Arielle blinked. "I didn't file a complaint. It was handled internally. If he attempts to return, we'll contact the authorities immediately. You're safe here." He left before she could process what had just happened. Victor was banned. But how? She hadn't said anything to anyone. An hour later, she sat in the hotel cafe, nursing coffee and trying to make sense of things. The morning crowd was sparse. A few business travelers, a couple sharing pastries, quiet conversations floating around her. Then she saw him, the man from the elevator. He sat 2 tables away, reading a newspaper, perfectly composed in another expensive suit. As if sensing her gaze, he looked up. Recognition flickered in his eyes, followed by something that looked almost like concern. He stood and walked over. "May I?" She nodded, surprised. He sat across from her, and up close, she noticed details she'd missed before. The slight silver at his temples, the quiet intensity in his dark eyes, the way he moved with absolute certainty. "You look like you slept better," he said. It was such a specific observation that it startled her into honesty. "I did, actually. First time in a while. Good." He signaled the waiter, ordered coffee without looking at the menu. "I'm Joon-Kang." "Arielle." "I know." At her surprised look, he added, "Small hotel. Word travels." They fell into conversation easily, naturally, in a way that made Arielle forget to be guarded. He asked about her writing. How had he known she was a writer? And listened when she talked about freelancing, the loneliness of it, the freedom. He didn't pry about last night, didn't ask questions that would make her uncomfortable. Instead, he talked about the city, recommended a bookstore she might like, mentioned a cafe with the best view of the river. It felt like talking to someone who actually saw her, not someone studying her for weaknesses. She noticed things, though. The way the staff approached him with deference, how the manager stopped by their table and called him Mr. Seo with a respectful bow, the quiet authority that surrounded him like an invisible barrier. "You work here?" she asked carefully. His lips curved slightly, in a manner of speaking. "That's cryptic." "I own it." Arielle's coffee cup paused halfway to her mouth. "You own the hotel?" Among other things. He watched her process this, patient, waiting for judgment or calculation or whatever usually came next. But she just nodded slowly. "So you're the reason Victor was banned. He made you uncomfortable. That's not acceptable in my hotel. You don't even know me. No, Joon-Kang said quietly, but I'd like to. The air between them shifted. Arielle felt something she hadn't experienced in years. The beginning of trust. And beneath it, something more dangerous. Attraction. She should be careful. She should keep her distance. Instead, she found herself saying, I'd like that too. Later, alone in his office, Joon-Kang made a call. The man from last night, Victor Hale. I want to know everything about him, and I want updates if he comes anywhere near this building. He hung up and stared at his desk. He was drawn to her in a way he didn't understand. It wasn't just her vulnerability or the sadness in her eyes. It was the strength underneath it. The way she'd smiled this morning despite everything. He wanted to protect that. He wanted to protect her. That should have worried him. It didn't. Over the next week, Arielle began to notice a pattern. Every morning at 8, Joon-Kang was in the cafe. Every morning he'd glance up when she arrived, and somehow there was always an empty chair at his table. Their conversations became longer. Breakfast stretched into mid-morning. Mid-morning became lunch in the garden courtyard, dappled sunlight falling through the trees. He was unlike anyone she'd ever met. Contained but not cold, powerful but not cruel. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words were chosen carefully, like each one mattered. One morning, she found her favorite coffee waiting at his table before she'd even ordered. Caramel macchiato, extra foam. How did you know? She asked. I pay attention. Another day, a book appeared at her door. The Night Circus. No note, but she knew it was from him. She'd mentioned loving magical realism once, just in passing. She was beginning to relax. The knots in her shoulders loosened, her sleep deepened. She laughed at something he said and realized she'd forgotten what her own laughter sounded like. You seem lighter, Maya said during their daily call. I feel lighter. Arielle paused. There's someone here. At the hotel. Someone? It's complicated. Complicated good or complicated bad. Arielle thought about the way Joon-Kang's hand had brushed hers when passing her the menu yesterday. How the touch had lingered, deliberate and warm. Complicated good, I think. That evening, Joon-Kang found her in the garden, sitting on a bench beneath the cherry blossoms. The sun was setting, painting everything gold. He sat beside her without asking. She didn't mind. I haven't felt safe in months, she said quietly, surprising herself. I didn't realize how exhausting fear was until it started to go away. He turned to look at her. You're safe here. Because of you. Yes. The honesty of it took her breath away. No false modesty, no deflection. Just truth. She met his eyes. Why? For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, I don't entirely know, but when I saw you that first night, you looked the way I felt for years. Alone in a room full of people, I wanted to change that for you. Her heart stumbled. He reached across the space between them and covered her hand with his. His palm was warm, his grip steady. The touch lingered. Neither of them pulled away. That night, the email came. You think you can hide from me? I know where you are. This isn't over, Ari. It will never be over. Arielle's hand shook as she read it. Then another. Who's the man you're with? Does he know what you are? What you did to me? She tried to hide her fear the next morning, but Joon-Kang noticed immediately. What happened? Nothing, I'm fine. He didn't push, but his jaw tightened slightly. He saw through her. That night, he insisted on walking her to her room. At her door, she hesitated. Would you? Could you stay? Just for a little while. Until I fall asleep. Something flickered in his eyes. Of course. He sat in the chair beside her bed while she lay down, still fully clothed, too tired to be embarrassed. His presence filled the room, solid, protective, real. She fell asleep to the sound of his breathing. When she woke at 3 a.m., he was still there, watching over her in the darkness. Across the city, in a bar too expensive for his budget, Victor stared at his phone. He'd found her, finally. And this time, she wouldn't get away. In his office, Joon-Kang received a report about Victor Hale. The man's background, his obsession, the pattern of control. His expression didn't change, but his next call was to his head of security. I need you to watch someone. 24 hours. If he gets within a block of this hotel, I want to know immediately. He wouldn't let anyone hurt her, not while he could prevent it. The storm hit just after midnight. Thunder cracked across the sky like the world splitting open. Lightning illuminated Arielle's hotel room in stark flashes, throwing shadows against the walls. The lights flickered once, twice, then steadied, but barely. She sat on the bed, knees pulled to her chest, phone clutched in shaking hands. She hadn't been afraid of storms since childhood. But tonight, every crack of thunder sounded like Victor breaking down a door. Every shadow looked like him standing in the corner, watching, waiting. Her finger hovered over Joon-Kang's number for 10 minutes before she finally pressed it. He answered on the first ring. Arielle? I'm sorry. Her voice came out small. I'm afraid to be alone. I'm coming. He was there in less than 3 minutes. When she opened the door, he was slightly breathless, hair disheveled like he'd been running. Still in his dress shirt, but with the sleeves rolled up, tie gone. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked almost undone. Are you all right? His eyes scanned her face, her room, searching for threats. I'm fine. Lightning flashed. She flinched. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. Come here. They sat together on the bed, and he pulled her against him, one arm wrapped firmly around her shoulders. She fit against his chest like she belonged there, his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. For several minutes, neither spoke. The storm raged outside. Inside, she felt safe. I need to tell you something, she whispered finally. I'm listening. And so she told him. Everything. Victor at the beginning, charming, attentive, perfect. Victor 6 months in, checking her phone, questioning her friends, slowly cutting her off from everyone who might help her see the truth. Victor after the breakup, the stalking, the flowers, the constant messages that walked the line between love and threat. I can't go to the police, she said. He has connections there. Friends. I tried once and the officer told me I was overreacting, that Victor was just concerned about me. Joon-Kang's jaw tightened. She felt his arm flex around her, muscle tensing beneath skin. When she looked up, she saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Rage. Controlled, carefully contained rage. He won't touch you again, Joon-Kang said quietly. I promise you that. You can't promise that. You don't understand. I understand more than you think. He pulled back slightly to look at her. There's something you should know about me, about who I really am. The lights flickered again. I don't just own this hotel, Arielle. My family's organization, we have reach, power, the kind that operates outside traditional channels. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I can protect you in ways the police can't, but I need you to trust me. She should be afraid. A rational person would be afraid. Instead, she felt relief flooding through her like warm water. I trust you. There's more. His expression darkened. My security team has been monitoring threats. Victor's been tracking your credit cards. He knows you're here. And according to our intelligence, he's planning something tomorrow. Her blood went cold. What kind of something? I don't know yet. But he won't get near you. I promise. Thunder cracked directly overhead. The lights died completely this time, plunging them into darkness broken only by lightning flashes. In that darkness, Arielle reached up and touched his face. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me, for helping me, for making me feel like myself again. His hand came up to cover hers, pressing her palm against his cheek. When I'm with you, he said quietly, everything feels quieter. You make it quiet for me too. Their foreheads touched. The space between them disappeared. When he kissed her, it wasn't rushed or desperate. It was careful, certain, like a promise being spoken without words. I'm here. I'm not leaving. You're not alone anymore. Her hands curled into his shirt, his fingers tangled in her hair. The world seemed to pause. When they finally pulled back, she was crying, but not from fear this time, from relief, from hope, from the overwhelming feeling of being seen completely and chosen anyway. He wiped her tears with his thumb. Sleep now. I'll be here. She lay down and he wrapped himself around her, solid, warm, protective. His arms formed a barrier between her and everything that had ever hurt her. She fell asleep to the rhythm of his breathing. He stayed awake all night, making quiet phone calls, planning, preparing. The storm would pass, but the real fight was just beginning. Arielle woke to sunlight and an empty bed. For a moment, panic seized her. Then she saw the note on the pillow, written in decisive handwriting. Had to handle something. Back soon. You're safe. J.K. She showered and dressed, trying to shake the unease that clung to her like smoke. Everything felt different this morning. The kiss, the confessions, the way the world had shifted on its axis in the darkness. She loved him. The realization hit her as she was brushing her hair. She loved Seo Joon-Kang, and that terrified her almost as much as Victor did. She stepped into the hallway heading for the elevator. "Hello, Ari." She froze. Victor stood at the end of the corridor. He looked terrible, unshaven, eyes red-rimmed, clothes wrinkled like he'd slept in them, or hadn't slept at all. "How did you really think you could hide from me?" He moved closer. She moved back. "I know this hotel. I know the manager called in a favor. You need to leave. We need to talk." His voice cracked. "Please. I just need you to understand. You've ruined me, Ari. I can't eat, can't sleep, can't focus on work. Everything falls apart without you. That's not my responsibility, Victor. Isn't it?" His eyes flashed. "You made me love you. You let me believe we had a future. And then you just left, like I was nothing." Hotel security rounded the corner. Two men in uniform, moving fast. Victor's expression twisted into something ugly. "Go ahead. Call them. But you should know, I filed a lawsuit. Theft, emotional damages, defamation. I have evidence you stole from me. Screenshots, bank records, witnesses." Arielle's stomach dropped. "That's not true." "Doesn't matter what's true. Matters what I can prove." He smiled, and it was the cruelest thing she'd ever seen. "And I've been busy. Found out some interesting things about your new friend, too. The hotel owner with connections. Think the police will protect a mob boss's girlfriend?" The security guards grabbed his arms. Victor didn't resist, but his eyes stayed locked on hers. "You've made a terrible mistake, Ari. If I can't have you, no one will." They dragged him away. Arielle stood frozen in the hallway, Victor's words echoing in her mind. His enemies could use her against him. The thought crystallized with horrible clarity. She'd brought danger to Joon-Kang's door. Victor knew about him now. Would dig deeper. Would use that information as a weapon. She was putting him at risk just by being here. Back in her room, she started packing with shaking hands. Threw clothes into her suitcase without folding them, her laptop, her phone charger, everything. She couldn't stay, couldn't let her mess become his problem. The letter was harder to write. "Joon-Kang, you've given me everything. Safety, peace, the feeling of being seen. You made me remember who I was before fear took over. But I can't let my problems become yours. Victor knows about you now. Staying puts you in danger, and I won't do that. Not to you. You've already given me something precious, the strength to protect the people I love, even if that means leaving them. Thank you for everything." She left it on the bed. The elevator ride down felt like descending into water, pressure building in her chest until she couldn't breathe. In the lobby, she walked quickly toward the exit. She didn't see Joon-Kang arrive, didn't see him take the elevator up, didn't see his face when he found the empty room and the letter on the bed. Jiyeon found her brother 20 minutes later, standing at the window with the note crumpled in his fist. "She left," he said flatly. "Then go after her, you fool. If I follow her, I put her in more danger. If you don't, you lose her." Jiyeon grabbed his arm. "For once in your life, don't be the strategist. Be the man who loves her." His jaw worked. "What if I can't protect her? What if you're the only one who can?" Arielle's phone rang in the taxi. Victor. "One meeting, Ari. Sign papers saying you won't press charges. Then I'll leave forever. I promise." She closed her eyes. The parking garage was in the old district, tucked beneath a building scheduled for demolition. Concrete pillars cast long shadows. Overhead lights flickered weakly. Arielle realized her mistake the moment she stepped out of the taxi. No cameras, no witnesses, no way to prove anything that happened here. Her phone was already recording in her jacket pocket. She'd started it before getting out of the car, some instinct for self-preservation finally kicking in after months of being afraid. Victor emerged from behind a pillar. He wasn't alone. Two men flanked him, broad-shouldered and expressionless. Not friends. Hired muscle. Ari. Victor's smile was all wrong. Too wide, too eager. "I knew you'd come. You said sign papers and you'd leave me alone." Her voice was steadier than she felt. "I lied." His mask dropped completely. The charm, the wounded lover act, gone. What remained was something cold and ugly. "You're coming with me, tonight. We're leaving the city. I've got a place lined up. Somewhere quiet where we can work this out properly." "No." The word came out clear and strong. Victor blinked. "What?" "No, I'm not going anywhere with you." Arielle stood straighter. Something inside her had shifted. All the fear that had controlled her for months suddenly crystallized into clarity. You don't get to do this anymore. You don't get to control me or threaten me or make me believe your obsession is love. You don't have a choice. I do, and I'm choosing to walk away. She turned toward the exit. Victor grabbed her arm, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. You think that man can save you? You think, let her go. Joon-Kang's voice cut through the garage like a blade. He stepped out of the shadows with 4 men behind him, his security team moving with coordinated precision. His expression was controlled, but his eyes burned with barely contained fury. Victor's grip loosened. This is between me and her. No. Joon-Kang moved closer, each step deliberate. It stopped being between you the moment you put your hands on her. Arielle pulled free from Victor's grasp, stepping back. Her heart hammered, but not from fear anymore. From something else. Power. Choice. Joon-Kang positioned himself beside her, close enough to intervene if needed, but not in front of her, not blocking her, trusting her to handle this. She looked at Victor. I recorded everything you just said. Your threats, your admission you lied, the fact you hired these men to help you kidnap me. Victor's face went white. You wouldn't. I already sent it to 3 people. If anything happens to me, it goes to the police. She paused. It's over, Victor. Actually over this time. You bitch, Victor lunged. Joon-Kang moved like lightning. One moment Victor was charging forward. The next he was on the ground, arm twisted behind his back, Joon-Kang's knee in his spine. No violence, just control. Sirens echoed in the distance, growing louder. Jiyeon stepped into the garage, phone to her ear. Police are 2 minutes out. I sent them everything. The restraining order violations, the financial fraud Victor's been running through his company, the falsified evidence he manufactured against Arielle. How did you? Arielle started. My brother's resources are extensive. Jiyeon smiled. And I'm very thorough. Police cars pulled into the garage, lights flashing. Officers emerged, and one of them immediately recognized Victor. Apparently, there were multiple warrants for his arrest related to embezzlement from his own firm. No, this isn't. I just wanted her back. Victor's composure finally shattered completely. She's mine. She'll always be mine. No, Arielle said quietly. I never was. They arrested Victor, read him his rights, loaded him into a car. He was still shouting her name as they drove away. Arielle stood frozen, watching the taillights disappear. Then her knees gave out. Joon-Kang caught her before she hit the ground, strong arms wrapping around her waist, pulling her against his chest. It's over, he murmured against her hair. It's really over. She turned in his arms and buried her face in his shirt, breathing him in, sandalwood and safety and home. I'm sorry I left, she whispered. I understand why. His hand came up to cradle the back of her head. But don't leave again. We face things together now. She looked up at him. Together. He kissed her then, deeper than before, more certain, like he was claiming her and being claimed in return. Like promises being made without words. When they pulled apart, she was crying again. But this time, it was a relief. 3 days later, Victor posted bail. Family money, apparently. His parents had connections, resources, the kind of wealth that bought second chances even when they weren't deserved. Joon-Kang's security team tracked him from the moment he left the courthouse. He's going to try something, Joon-Kang said, standing in his office with Arielle beside him. One last desperate move. Let him come. Arielle's voice was steady now. I'm not running anymore. It happened that evening. Arielle was leaving the hotel, heading to dinner with Jiyeon to discuss the job offer, when she saw him. Victor stood under the streetlights outside the Grand Azure's entrance, disheveled and wild-eyed, clutching a folder of papers. She stopped. Behind her, the hotel doors opened. Joon-Kang emerged, followed by his security team. But he didn't step in front of her, just placed his hand at the small of her back. Support, not dominance. Victor's laugh was sharp and broken. Look at you, the perfect couple. Does he know what you are? How you manipulate people? I never manipulated you, Victor. I just stopped letting you control me. Control? He stepped closer. Security tensed, but Joon-Kang raised a hand. Wait. After everything I gave you, the meals, the gifts, my time, my love. What you controlled, Arielle interrupted. Her voice cut through his escalating rant. You didn't love me. You loved the idea of owning me. That's not. You checked my phone, questioned my friends, made me feel guilty for having a life outside of you. That's not love, Victor. That's possession. His face contorted with rage. And him? You think he's different? You think a man like that, he gestured wildly at Joon-Kang, a criminal, a mob boss, doesn't want to own you too? Joon-Kang's voice was quiet, deadly calm. The difference is I asked her to stay. You tried to force her. Victor's composure shattered completely. You don't own her. No, Arielle said, her voice ringing clear in the night air. I never was yours. I never will be. I'm my own person, and I choose who I share my life with. I chose to leave you, and I'm choosing to stay with him. Something in Victor's expression collapsed. I can destroy you both. I have evidence about his organization, connections to prosecutors. One phone call, and no, you don't. Ji-yeon stepped out of a car at the curb, immaculate in a business suit, holding her own folder. What you have are empty threats. What I have is documented evidence of your stalking, your embezzlement from your firm, your falsified claims against my client, and your attempted kidnapping 3 days ago. Police cars pulled up as if on cue. Victor's eyes widened. No, you can't. I posted bail. Bail for the harassment charges, the lead officer said, stepping forward with handcuffs. These are new charges: violating restraining orders, additional counts of stalking, and financial fraud. Your bail is revoked. Victor tried to run. He didn't get 3 steps before security had him. You'll regret this, he screamed at Arielle as they cuffed him. You'll come back. You always come back. No, Arielle said. She didn't raise her voice. Didn't need to. I won't. They loaded Victor into the police car. He was still shouting, face pressed against the window, but his words were muffled now, meaningless. The car pulled away. Arielle watched until the taillights disappeared completely. Then she turned to Joon-Kang. It's really over. Yes. His hand found hers, fingers interlacing. It is. She leaned into him and he wrapped his arms around her. For a long moment, they just stood there under the lights of the Grand Azure, holding each other. Ji-yeon approached, her expression softer now. Miss Moore, I meant what I said about the job offer. My design and marketing firm could use someone with your talent and your courage. Arielle looked at her. I didn't do anything courageous. You stood up for yourself. You chose your own path. That's the definition of courage. Something warm bloomed in Arielle's chest. When can I start? Monday? Monday. Later that night, back in Joon-Kang's suite, Arielle stood on the balcony looking at the city lights. He joined her, handing her a cup of tea. I keep waiting to be afraid, she admitted. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. It won't. He's going away for years this time. Multiple charges, multiple jurisdictions. He won't hurt you again. She turned to face him. You saved me. No. He cupped her face gently. We saved each other. She kissed him then, slow and deep and certain. When they pulled apart, she was smiling through tears. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me, for protecting me, for letting me be strong. Always, he promised, and she believed him. 3 months later, Arielle stood in Ji-yeon's conference room, presenting her latest campaign design to a room full of executives. Her voice was confident, her ideas sharp. When she finished, the CEO smiled and said, exceptional work. She'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen for her talent instead of her vulnerability. She had her own apartment now, a small one-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood that she'd chosen herself. Signed the lease in her own name, decorated it with things that made her happy. But most nights, she ended up at Joon-Kang's penthouse, drawn there by something deeper than habit. This morning, she'd woken in his bed wearing one of his shirts, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. She'd made coffee in his kitchen, humming softly, and realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt afraid. She was writing again, too. Not frantically, not out of financial desperation, but because words were flowing again, because she had stories inside her that wanted to be told. That evening, rain tapped against the windows of Joon-Kang's apartment. Arielle sat on the sofa, laptop open, finishing an article. He appeared beside her, settling into the cushions with unusual hesitation. There's something I need to say. She closed the laptop, turned to face him fully. His jaw worked for a moment. Then, I don't know how to love gently. My life has never allowed for softness. But I know this. I am in love with you, Arielle. Completely. Irrevocably. I think about you when I wake up. I measure my days by whether I've seen you smile. When something goes wrong, you're the only place my mind goes. Her breath caught. I don't want a world where you are not in it. He continued, reaching for her hand. So I'm asking you, not as someone who needs rescuing, but as my equal, my partner. Will you build a life with me? Tears filled her eyes. I'm in love with you too. So much it scares me sometimes, but it's a good kind of scary. The kind that means something real. He pulled her into his arms, and she felt his heartbeat against her cheek. Steady, strong, home. They returned to the Grand Azure that weekend. Walked through the lobby hand in hand, past the desk where she'd checked in months ago, terrified and alone. Stepped into the same elevator where they'd first met. Everything's different now, she said softly. Everything's better, he corrected. They rode to the penthouse. On the balcony, city lights spread below them like scattered stars, exactly as they had the night of their first kiss. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. She leaned back into him, completely at ease, completely safe. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For seeing me when I couldn't see myself. For giving me space to be strong. For showing me what love actually looks like. He kissed her temple, his voice soft against her skin. We saved each other. She turned in his arms and kissed him, slow and deep and full of promise. Below them, the city breathed and moved and lived. But up here, in this moment, the world was just the two of them. Arielle finally understood what it meant to be chosen freely. To be safe without being controlled. To be loved without conditions. For the first time in her life, she was home, and she was never leaving again.